Modern people in human society were formed not only due to evolution. Throughout the history of our species, it was accompanied by various phenomena and technologies that influenced the survival and development from primitive primates to the absolute masters of the planet. Each of these phenomena went through certain stages of development together with us. During this formation, people made mistakes, tried different options, and made revolutionary discoveries in various fields of their activities. With this release, we open a new series of videos about these features of our society. And we will start with medicine. Subscribe to the channel Age of Dinosaurs. This will allow you to learn about the appearance of new videos before other users. Also, with the help of likes and comments, our viewers can help in the development of the channel and its promotion according to the platform algorithms. Thanks to your activity, other science lovers from different countries will learn about us. Now, when we need medical help, we can go to a clinic or call an ambulance. To get medicine, it is enough to go to a pharmacy. Humanity has enormous resources and powerful technologies at its disposal. They help to cope with many diseases, diagnose the most complex problems, and perform high-precision surgeries. It is almost impossible for us to imagine that quite recently, by historical standards, people could die from a common cold. And we certainly cannot imagine how ancient people survived without all these medical technologies. Even scientists have only a superficial idea of this. Some idea of the medicine of the Stone Age can be formed from the rituals of primitive tribes living in the jungles of South America, the Australian bush, or other remote regions. Their medical practice is inextricably linked with magical rituals and other spiritual practices. The first Europeans who encountered such medicine saw a picture that was quite funny for them. Many native tribes believed that they were surrounded by a huge number of different spirits. And it was these spirits that sent diseases to them. Also, the Aborigines of South America and Australia believed in witchcraft. An evil shaman could easily send a disease to them with the help of the same spirits. But people who have lived in unity with nature for centuries know how to use other methods of treatment. They know about the medicinal and poisonous properties of the plants around them. They know how to obtain medicines from animals they hunt. Also, for people whose lives are connected with constant movement, simple fractures, dislocations, and sprains are not a problem. But even with such extensive experience in natural medicine, the life expectancy of hunters and gatherers is extremely short. Compared to them, a resident of even the most rundown village with access to a pharmacy is a real long liver. In ancient times, people who switched to a sedentary lifestyle began to live longer than nomads. True, along with this, they came to new types of diseases. As a clear example, we can cite one of the most important people for science of the Bronze Age. We are talking about the Iceman, who was named Ötzi by scientists. He became a real treasure trove of knowledge for scientists, including medical knowledge. A frozen mummy was discovered in the Alps on the border of Italy and Austria in 1991. Ötzi was about 5,300 years old. This time was a turning point in the history of mankind. People actively switched to a sedentary lifestyle, growing grain and raising cattle. In addition to a bronze axe, a flint dagger, a yew bow, and the remains of high-quality fur clothing, the thrifty European from the Bronze Age had a good hiking backpack with him. It contained devices for making a fire, several pieces of goat meat, and a small first aid kit. At the time of his death, this man was about 45 years old, which is a very respectable age for that time. He weighed about 50 kilograms and was about 165 centimeters tall. At the same time, Ötzi was active and quite strong. Blood tests on his weapons and clothes showed that Ötzi killed or wounded 4 people before his death. This knowledge and the presence of an advanced set of weapons suggests that he was a skilled warrior. The most detailed studies of Ötzi's mummy showed that he suffered from intestinal parasites, had several old wounds and fractures, and was prone to obesity and baldness. His toes showed signs of frostbite. In addition, modern doctors could diagnose Ötzi with gum disease, gallstones, atherosclerosis, and Lyme disease, an infectious disease carried by blood-sucking insects. And they tried to treat him for all of this, or he treated himself. His medicine cabinet contained various herbs and a preparation obtained from tree mushrooms. Tattoos were also found on his body, which most likely had a ritual meaning. They are small lines and crosses into which coal dust was rubbed. A total of 61 such tattoos were found on Ötzi's body. Their location has no order, and they are not part of any drawings on the body. Scientists combined these drawings into 19 groups. It turned out that approximately 80% of them correspond to acupuncture lines known to modern medicine. Perhaps the doctors Ötzi consulted did understand something about medicine. This conclusion can be drawn from the fact that the Chinese told the world about acupuncture only 2,000 years after Ötzi's death, and modern doctors successfully use this experience to this day. But medicine during Ötzi's lifetime was not systematized and centralized. Ancient Greece played a huge role in the development of European medicine. The priests of the temples of the god Asclepius essentially developed the procedure for making a diagnosis and systematized all the knowledge available at that time. In addition, archaeological finds confirm the presence of surgical instruments of fairly high quality. Despite the fact that initially it was a purely religious and mystical practice, as a result, the temples of Asclepius became the first centralized medical institutions in Europe. The training of doctors in ancient Greece took place on the principle of craft training. That is, each doctor passed on his knowledge to his own students. Rich people had their own doctors. The poor had to be content with the services of periodutes, traveling doctors who moved from one village to another. There were also free public doctors who were called to cities to fight epidemics. Later, the role of the leading state in the Mediterranean region was intercepted by the Roman Empire. Rome became the greatest state of its time, thanks to an important feature. The Romans did not hesitate to appropriate all the best from the culture and science of the conquered peoples. As a result, almost the entire culture and science of Rome was based on the achievements of ancient Greek philosophers, researchers, poets, and playwrights. The Roman period of the development of medicine gave us the works of the great surgeon and researcher, Galen. While treating wounded gladiators, he was able to not only acquire great practical knowledge, Galen carefully recorded all his experiments in diaries. His knowledge became the basis for doctors from all over the world for many years. Of course, not all of Galen's operations were successful. He could study the anatomy of living organisms only on animals. For religious reasons, it was forbidden to dissect human bodies. This problem accompanied scientists for more than 1 century. Several medical schools were formed in the ancient world, which largely laid the foundations of modern medicine. The Croton School is considered the earliest of them. It was formed in the 6th century BC. Its most prominent representative was Alcmaeon. He expressed the ideas of the unity and struggle of opposites in the human body. Alcmaeon and his followers believed that diseases are caused by some kind of disharmony in the human body. Therefore, the main principle of healing was the statement, "Treat the opposite with the opposite." At the beginning of the 5th century BC, the Cnidian medical school was formed. Its representatives laid the foundations of the so-called humoral pathology. They believed that the cause of all diseases is a violation of the composition and proportion of fluids in the human body. At the moment, this theory is, of course, very outdated, but it gave food for thought to doctors of subsequent eras. Representatives of the Kos medical school, the most famous of whom was Hippocrates, believed that the basis of treatment should be observation at the patient's bedside. They associated the appearance of diseases with disturbances in the patient's environment. Much attention was also paid to the lifestyle, physique, and even temperament of a person. In the 3rd century BC, 2 famous ancient physicians and founders of their own medical schools lived in Alexandria, Herophilus and Erasistratus. They were the first to suggest and experimentally prove that the brain is an organ of thinking. Their works contain a description of the convolutions, membranes, and ventricles of the brain. They also revealed the difference between sensory and motor nerves. In Asia and the Middle East, their own medical teachings also began to appear at one time. Moreover, in many countries, all knowledge was systematized and recorded. Egypt, China, India, Mesopotamia, and the Arab countries contributed a lot to modern medicine. For example, such a therapeutic tradition as Ayurveda was developed in India. It includes a whole range of methods for maintaining the body in a healthy state and prolonging human life. Ayurveda prescribes various meditative practices, as well as diet options, physical exercises, and other methods. More than 2,000 herbal medicines are described in Chinese sources. Chinese doctors actively used such plants as ginseng, lemongrass, camphor, rhubarb, and many others in their practice. The Chinese also developed a technique of acupuncture, which people have been using for more than 1 millennium. The sacred book of Zoroastrianism, Avesta, contains instructions on hygiene, special treatment of pregnant women, prohibition of alcohol consumption, and many other methods of disease prevention. This religious cult originated in ancient Iran and spread throughout Central Asia, the Middle East, and Transcaucasia. Analysis of Egyptian papyri, the laws of the Babylonian king Hammurabi, Indian Vedas, Chinese treatises, and other sources shows that Eastern medicine has very deep roots. Doctors and scientists from these countries had an idea of many diseases and ways to treat them. They also had extensive knowledge in the field of surgery. Priests of various cults, as well as doctors and scientists, could perform a lobotomy or a cesarean section and, what's more, set and properly knit broken bones. Medieval doctors continued the research of their ancient colleagues, but they had to face a new enemy. Due to the low level of hygiene and the high crowding of people in the cities in the Middle Ages, epidemics of various infectious diseases regularly occurred. If in rich and enlightened Rome it was possible to organize water supply and sewerage in the cities, then in the cities of medieval Europe hygiene was practically not monitored. But at this time, people came to the conclusion that it was necessary to fight such diseases with the help of quarantines and the creation of medical institutions. The first hospitals for the population were opened in Byzantium. Later, infirmaries and monastery hospitals were created throughout Europe. The first universities began to teach medicine, but major breakthroughs in this science had to wait quite a long time. All research was carried out exclusively within the framework of what was permitted by the Church. Although, in justification of this approach, it must be said that the Church actively used and refined the works of ancient authors, for example, the same Galen. In the Arab world, medieval medicine did not stand still either. New and often revolutionary knowledge can be found in the treatises of such scientists as Razi Rezes, Ibn Sina Avicenna, and Ismail Jurjani. More rapid development of medical science began in the Renaissance. Scientists of this time openly criticized the scholastic approach to medicine and sought to understand the human body as a mechanism. The Swiss alchemist and natural scientist Paracelsus questioned many outdated teachings in his works. He introduced many drugs into circulation and improved their dosage system, actively used mineral waters, and even developed a prototype of a plague vaccine. Jan van Helmont came very close to the concept of fermentation during digestion. He also introduced the concept of gas into science and experimentally identified 4 of them: carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, laughing gas, and methane. Andreas Vesalius became the founder of modern anatomy. He departed from the canons laid down by Galen in the 2nd century BC. Having the opportunity to practice on human corpses, Vesalius described the structure of the human body more fully and correctly. Scientists and thinkers of the 17th and 18th centuries continued experiments in various areas of medicine. And after Antony van Leeuwenhoek invented the microscope, previously unknown world of microorganisms was revealed to researchers. They began to understand the mechanisms of infection and the spread of infections. This allowed them to develop measures to combat such diseases. Also, with the help of a microscope, the Italian Marcello Malpighi discovered the presence of capillaries, the smallest blood vessels. Thanks to the efforts of scientists such as Girolamo Fracastoro and Ambroise Paré, medicine, and, in particular, surgery began to be systematically taught in educational institutions. In the 19th century, the research of Louis Pasteur, Albert Koch, and their followers made it possible to identify the pathogens of many diseases. The introduction of such a concept as vaccination made it possible to completely defeat many previously fatal diseases. Universal vaccination of newborns in the 20th century not only sharply reduced child mortality, but also influenced changes in society. Families no longer had to have a large number of children, and women had the opportunity to work equally with men. This led to the fight for women's rights and a change in their social status throughout the world. Now doctors have the most modern technology and advanced tools at their disposal. We are able to develop vaccines and synthesize any medicine. Scientists have completely decoded the human genome. This allows not only to identify hereditary diseases, but also to encode DNA to give birth to people with the necessary parameters. Now humanity is again ready to move on to the next stage in the development of medicine. And the main thing is to direct this knowledge for the benefit of humanity, and not for the destruction and extermination of people as a single species. It was for this reason that scientists from previous eras conducted their research, made discoveries and mistakes, sometimes even risking their own lives. The creators of the Dinosaur Age channel express their gratitude to the viewers who watched this video to the very end. If you are interested in learning about the development of life on Earth, the history of the study of various living organisms, and the problems of modern society, we recommend that you pay attention to the previous videos posted on our channel.